Hey, what's good, everybody? It is time for your update on what is going on with Surrey real estate. So, we're filming this in February of 2026. We're looking back at the month that was of January 2026 and everything that was happening with real estate in the city of Surrey. So, let's jump right into it. When we're talking about prices in this video, if you're new to seeing this video on our channel, we're using what's called the home price index and benchmark prices. So, benchmark prices tracks the typical home over time. It's not a real house, but a benchmark property with consistent features. And we're watching if that value goes up or down, how a typical home goes up or down over time. And we want to filter out one off sales that could really skew the data. So it's not an average, it's called a benchmark property or a benchmark price on a typical home. It's kind of like I want you to think about like inflation for houses. Is it going up or down? And we can do this with specific areas and specific neighborhoods, specific home types. And this is the best data that we have. This is, in fact, what the media quotes. This is what the government uses when they're looking at home sales data, all that sort of stuff. So that's what we're going to be using for this particular video. Now, this I want to share with you. I thought this was interesting. This came out from the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board on February 3rd. Just a little bit about the January market, and it might surprise you, it might not. Home prices in the Fraser Valley fell for the 10th consecutive month in January, pushing the benchmark price below 900,000 for the first time since 2021. In fact, most markets that I'm seeing in all product types are back to late 2021 prices. So, effectively that's almost 5 years of value, well, fluctuations, but we're back about 5 years to where property prices were in 2021, which is super interesting. It's something I'll touch on towards the end of the video. The benchmark price for a typical home in the Fraser Valley dropped 1% in January, down 6.9% year over year. The continued softening in prices wasn't enough to get buyers off the fence, however, off the sidelines, as the Fraser Valley Board recorded only 619 sales. The Fraser Valley Board is North Delta all the way to Abbotsford. It is January. January is typically one of the slower months of the year, but 619 sales, that's 33% down from the month before of December, which is also typically a slow month, and 24% below the same month last year. And there was something that happened around February of 2025. I want to see if you can guess what it is. So we weren't dealing with that in January of last year. We knew it may be coming, but we weren't dealing with it. So let's play a game and see if you can think of what it is. So, anyways, I wanted to let you know that. Now, what I'm showing you here, getting into the prices a little bit, the red line is the Greater Vancouver Real Estate Board. That's like Whistler all the way down to Vancouver, the Tri Cities, Maple Ridge is in there, Richmond's in there. This is all of the property types and what's happened to pricing over the last 3 years since 2023. And the blue line is the same thing for the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board that I discussed earlier. But let's get into the kind of real nitty gritty numbers here. So, condominiums, what's going on in that market? Well, the sales to active ratio is in and around 10%. That means about 1 out of 10 homes are selling. And if you're unfamiliar with these videos that I do each and every month regarding what's going on with real estate, the red line represents what's called a balanced market. There's no advantage to either party. And you can see we're well below that red line. And in fact, the difference between 12% and 10% doesn't sound like a lot when we do it in percentages, but 12% of homes transacting each and every month, that's roughly 1 out of 8, but 10% is 1 out of 10. And that's a big, big difference. Balanced market conditions tend to be anywhere around 15. And I actually believe it to be higher than that, but between about 15 to 20%. So you can see we're well below that. And that typically is going to have an impact on prices. And in fact, it did. This is what condominiums have done over the course of the last 3 years or so. So month over month, they're only down about $900 month over month. You can see they did start to flatline a little bit, but year over year they're down about $44,000 in total. So as you would imagine, this market is really in the advantage of buyers. Activity is at about an 18-month low, which maybe isn't surprising for a lot of people. I am surprised though by the amount of projects I see coming to the market, the amount of emails and texts and signs I see just driving around the community about new projects coming in that is a little surprising under these kind of challenge market conditions that we've been having. But it's definitely a good thing, because we don't want new construction to stall. We don't want it to stop. So we'll have to kind of keep an eye on that and see what's going to happen. Now, one thing I did want to bring up in this video, and I'm going to actually touch on this towards the end, so you don't want to miss it, just around mortgage rates. Spoiler alert, but mortgage rates are probably in and around where they're going to stay for their bulk of 2026. I'm going to dive into that towards the end of this, but I did want to mention that if you're someone that's maybe sitting around waiting to see what happens with mortgage rates, you're going to want to consider some of the stuff I'm going to show you towards the end of the video. So I won't give it all away, but we'll touch on that momentarily. If you're selling your condominium in the city of Surrey and you've got a 1 out of 10 chance and prices are sliding like that, you need to be ultra competitive to attract a buyer. So don't let months go by, don't let weeks go by without paying attention. If you're in a must move situation, you need to be priced right to get the attention of a buyer. Getting on to townhomes in the city of Surrey, and this is the city of Surrey combined, it's the entire area. You can see it looks very similar to the condo market. So they dip down to about 1 out of 10 or 10% of properties transacting each month, and their graph looks somewhat similar. They gave away a lot of value over the last year, and month over month they're down almost about $10,000, and year over year they're down about $61,000. So as you would expect, again, the advantages for the buyers in a market like this, again, activity is at a very low amount. There's lots of projects coming to the market, and it actually clearly looks like I accidentally copied the exact same slide from the condos here. So what I will let you know here is just really looking at this data. If you're a buyer out there right now, you've got lots to look at. You've got some really good opportunities out there. When sellers are struggling like they are to offload their properties and whatnot, we don't know how long this is necessarily going to last, but you've got the opportunity to shoot your shot, to go out there and to make offers. It's not necessarily all about the price that you get, but that's certainly important. You need to remember that you're likely going to be living there for a period of time. Real estate isn't easily traded, it's expensive to trade. So you're going to want to consider your lifestyle factors and how long you might want to be there and the health of the complex. And there's a lot of stuff to consider. That's why you need great help buying and selling real estate with a real estate professional. But that said, if you've got options, put your offers out there and see what you can do, because this is such a great opportunity for buyers to be doing anything in this sort of market. Let's jump into what's going on with detached homes. And detached homes continue to be definitely the most struggling type of home, struggling type of product across the Fraser Valley that I see. So your sales to active ratio is at like 5%, guys. That is like 1 out of 20 homes. Remember the one in the 10% versus, like, let's say 5%? Well, that's 1 out of 10 selling versus 1 out of 20 selling at 5%. That is a really, really difficult market, which has a crazy impact on pricing. And you can see what has happened with the price of detached houses across Surrey in the last year. It's just been like a landslide. So in the last month, they're down about 15,600 month over month, according to the home price index. And in the last year, they're down about $133,400. That is not pocket change, people. That is a big difference. Clearly, that is an advantage to the buyers. So even more so what I just said about townhomes, there is a ton of inventory to choose from. There's so much out there. So if you're looking at buying a home, who knows how long this is going to last, but the cards are definitely in your favor. I don't expect this market to bounce back quickly. It's going to remain challenged in my estimation for a little bit of time, because it's really difficult to get out of market conditions like that when you're that low, when you're that far from a balanced market condition. So we'll have to see what happens. We'll have to see if my predictions prove to be true. Put your offers out there. Buyers, go get a good deal on a property. If you're a seller, when the prices are moving like that, you want to make sure you're priced properly. Hope is not a strategy. If you have to move, don't use hope as a strategy. You need to be priced competitively. You need to have a rock star professional helping you get it across the board, because a lot of deals are falling through right now because buyers are getting cold feet. So you need a pro out there, okay? Definitely advantage of the buyers. Now, I did promise you guys that I was going to talk to you a little bit about what's going on with mortgage rates. And this is a snippet from the British Columbia Real Estate Association and their mortgage forecast department. So a couple highlights on there. They talk about Canadian fixed mortgage rates are holding steady amongst bond volatility. If you're not sure how interest rates and what the Bank of Canada does kind of impacts fixed rates versus variable rates, then we've got some videos on our YouTube channel you can definitely check out with that. Talks about trade uncertainty, which we don't need to go into. And then more so, after 2 rounds of rate cuts, is the Bank of Canada done? It's an interesting question. The British Columbia Real Estate Association forecasts that there will be no change to the overnight lending rate from the Bank of Canada over 2026. They also don't think there's going to be any significant changes to the 5-year discounted rate mortgages, fixed rate mortgages over 2026. So if you're someone out there who's been sitting on the fence and kind of thinking mortgage rates are going to improve, You might be waiting a little bit of time. So that's what the British Columbia Real Estate Association says. And I always like to talk about market drivers as well. And in fact, this is the same slide as I used last month on this report. But the CIBC Economics Department also predicts that the Bank of Canada policy rate will remain unchanged until the end of 2026. So there's a few people who are kind of projecting that. And in fact, they were a little bit leading with their comments that they figured that that was probably going to be the case as well. So certainly something to watch, especially for those people that have been sitting on the sidelines waiting for quite some time. As you'll see a little bit lower on this slide here, the demand is a big factor of that. And we know there's tons and tons and tons of people that have been waiting to jump into the real estate market, but they've been hesitant because prices have been coming down and mortgage rates were high. Well, mortgage rates aren't high anymore, and prices are back to where they were in late 2021. So, at what point do people start entering back in because they see opportunities out there that they don't want to miss? So, it's always an interesting conversation and one that you'll have to watch. And good reason to subscribe to this channel so you can follow all this great information. Now, economic shifts. There's a couple things going on right now that are just worth mentioning. I'm not an economics guy. I'm a real estate professional who works out of South Surrey and White Rock and Cloverdale and all those surrounding areas. But there is a couple things that are worth noting. We've got a ruling coming out of the United States about the legality of tariffs. That is going to impact our market for either the better or for worse, because that will give an idea to, or rather, that'll give a feeling, is better said, to people about what's going to happen, in the coming years or the coming months with our economy. So that'll be a really interesting one to follow to see what happens with that, and also anything, any talk about trade talks or KUSMA, the renegotiation of all that. And I'm going to leave all that for the economics departments to comment on. But those are all big factors that are going to influence investment in real estate. And when I say investment, I'm also talking about people just looking at buying a home because it is an investment for them. If it wasn't an investment, they would just rent. So definitely keep an eye on that sort of stuff. Seasonal trends, we're coming out of January. January is typically one of the slower months for real estate in the lower mainland, and spring is usually the busiest. Now, we put a super interesting video that I know if you watch it is going to probably catch you a lot off guard with some of the assumptions you had about either being a buyer during the spring market or being a seller during the spring market. That video is out on our YouTube channel right now, so go hunt that one down. We just released it recently. It's got some stats and some real kind of what's really happened, the reality of what really happens in the spring, and it's going to catch you off guard. You've got some assumptions, I guarantee it, and you're going to want to watch that one. So check that out. But we are going into the spring market and local policy trends. Well, the BC government hasn't done anything crazy yet this year, and I don't think they will for the rest of 2026 because there's enough volatility going on right now. So anyways, guys, that's it. Thanks for watching these. If you don't subscribe to our Instagram channel as well, the German group, we produce a ton of local information that we don't put on this YouTube channel, and you're going to get a lot of news about what's going on in the city of Surrey in there. So make sure you look for that on Instagram and subscribe. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel and check out some of our new videos. We're releasing incredible info and working really hard to keep you informed about everything going on with Surrey real estate, BC real estate, and anything that we can do to help you make great decisions. And if you need help buying or selling a home, you know how to get a hold of us as well. Just down below in the description, you can book a call with me or my team, and we'll do everything we can to help put you in the right spot to make the best decisions for whether you're buying or for selling. Thanks for watching, and we'll look forward to seeing you next month. Cheers.